I don't really give a fuck about the whole Logan Paul vs. KSI boxing saga. I just never really cared about that whole anime arc. But the recent showdown actually did show me something. It showed me the importance of shit talking in sports. I've always thought that shit talking plays a crucial role when it comes to competition in general. Shit talking just adds a very human element to an otherwise extremely corporate world when it comes to sports. Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather, for example, a whole lot of shit talking. Really, combat sports in general are very big on shit talking, and it works very well for them both in terms of viewer numbers, turnout, and as well as just general investment into the people, because in the corporate world of sports, you have people trying so hard to appease brands, be child friendly and everything like that, where, especially in esports, shit talking is actively discouraged and punished. It makes it hard to even know if the players are even invested in their sport or if they're just there for a payday. But when you have them giving some type of passionate press conference or even just a tweet saying something like, "Hey, your mom's so fat she rides my wiener with only one ass cheek." Something like that's enough to say, oh, okay, so it seems like they do care and they are actually going out there to beat this person. If they care, maybe I should care. And then you have these rivalries that form as a result. You have great rivalries in sports, such as the Yankees and the Red Sox, LeBron James' team versus whatever team LeBron James is playing that week, Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus good coaching and good decision making. I'm no longer a mainline sports fan. I've abandoned that religion long ago. I've left that cult, but I certainly used to be. You should have seen my room growing up as a kid. So much fucking Bucks memorabilia. Goddamn had fucking Buccaneer nipple tassels, basically. The point I'm making is the role of shit talking, I think, plays a very important one in getting people excited or interested in an upcoming sports event. KSI vs. Logan Paul is the perfect example. These two people seemingly hate each other, and they give these very heated press conferences that sound like you're at the middle school lunch table. And people like that because they like to see that kind of emotion and that drive where these people really want to win. It's not just there because it's a payday, they're there because they want to make a point, they want to win. So you choose sides in this saga. Wrestling entertainment, for example, they build drama into their characters themselves where they have shit talking between them. And you know what happens? People side with characters, people root for characters, and it heightens the whole experience. That's what esports in general is missing. There's this giant wave in esports to eliminate toxicity from their game. Toxicity is a very loose word they use because in some games you get banned for fucking excessive pinging in League of Legends. League of Legends used to be a goddamn cesspool, no doubt about that. The fucking wild, wild west of degeneracy. Now they've cracked down on it and made it a daycare. Overwatch, similar situation. But I can't help but feel that turning these games and these communities into Weenie Hut Jr. is detrimental because it actively discourages people from getting invested in putting their ass on the line, putting nuts to butts. You know, I get when people are being hateful, racist, shit like that, throwing your games, going AFK. I get that being grounds for a ban or punishment. But as for just getting heated in the game, and if they're not actively making you lose, them just being all mad and shit, telling you to play better and mean words, there's already a solution built in. It's called muting them. You can mute everyone if you want to, so there is a solution for that already. And I totally get wanting to take bullying out of it because people get very mean in these competitive games, and I'd never advocate for bullying, but the solution has already been found 20 fucking years ago with being able to mute your bully, mute the person that's being an asshole. That solves the whole problem. They don't need to translate this fucking crusade against toxicity into their competitive environment where no teams are allowed to playfully banter with each other, shit talk, or even really get emotional about what they genuinely feel. They give all these fucking cookie cutter responses just like in regular sports, and it's boring, and it loses that element of making it something big, making rivalries, making anything meaningful. Imagine if the KSI versus Logan Paul fight had none of the shit talking beforehand, and it was just two guys going out there to fight. Would people care? Probably not. It wouldn't be nearly as big as it was, but because they had these months and months of constant back and forth shit talking and emotion on the line, it got people invested, obviously, because that's the kind of shit that people want to get involved in and see the result of. It creates an entire narrative around an event coming up as opposed to just being another cookie cutter sports event with maybe some cool moments. It actually puts something there, which is why wrestling does it instead of just have fucking action figures go out there and colliding. There's actual emotion behind it, which esports I think is dreadfully lacking. Now you'll notice my shirt changed throughout this video. That's because as I was rendering it out initially, a story came out about an esports professional in the Call of Duty scene named Mutix, I believe. Basically, what happened is during a stream he didn't mean to start, he was bantering with his friend and he said some bad words. He said autist and he also said retard to his friend. It was supposed to be in jest, but it was caught on stream and now he's at risk of losing his career, his sponsor. His 12-year-long esports career is now in jeopardy because those words were picked up on stream in a fit of trash-talking banter with his friend. And since this happened as I was rendering this, I figured it'd be a topic people were talking about in the comments, and I wanted to address it in the video itself. Do I think he deserves to lose everything because of the words he said on stream? No, absolutely not. Cancel culture is a goddamn plague. 100% he doesn't deserve to lose his entire career because of trash talk banter with his friend, even if it was in poor taste and not comedic at all. And one thing I always see happen that I like to talk about when some shit like this goes down, there's always some Twitter verified checkmark losers in the fucking comments that dogpile on to try and score internet points. Mutix posts this I'm sorry video where he's crying and talking about everything that's at stake and what he might lose. Pro tip, never make a crying video on the internet. No one's gonna believe it even if it is genuine. I don't know fuck all about Mutix or this scene in general. Maybe this guy's a huge asshole, I don't know. But just from him saying the words autist and retard in a trash bantering with his friend, I don't think warrants him losing everything, even though it is in very poor taste. Alas, Ashes comes into the comments of his I'm sorry crying video to post a GIF. I think his name is Ashes. I don't know if it's LA Patty P. I don't really know. He looks like McLovin. He comes in to post a GIF of Joker laughing at him. Then someone says, bruh, come on, and his response is, no respect for that behavior, brother. And that's totally fine. If you don't want to forgive the guy for what he said, that's absolutely within your right and makes total sense. But if you're going to act all high and mighty and celebrating this man's downfall, when you yourself are just as guilty of the same things, if not worse, you're pretty much the lowest of the fucking low, you goddamn two-faced asshole. If you dig through his tweets for 1 second, it takes literally one search on his page, here's a picture, he's constantly throwing around this word. That's pretty goddamn bad, don't you think, Ashes? So if you're celebrating him losing all his shit, don't you think you should be equally held accountable? You should probably lose all your shit too, right? And I fucking hate when people dig through old tweets to find things to get outraged about for their little cancel culture small boner. But if you're using it against someone who's already on the cancel culture bandwagon dog pile, I'm totally fine with it. Yeah, Ashes, your tweets were from 7 so years ago. Who gives a shit? There's no forgiveness in cancel culture, baby. There's no time limit on it. That shit doesn't expire. Who's to say you changed? Mutex didn't even mean to have that shit go out in public. You openly post that shit on your Twitter. So if Mutex is losing his career over the things he said by accident, and you say things that are worse on purpose, shouldn't you also lose your career? Like, that makes sense, right? I mean, yeah, maybe you don't say this in public anymore, but you definitely did, and who's to say you still don't say it off stream and behind closed doors? I mean, there's no telling. But anyway, I got sidetracked. I was just focusing on the role that trash talk plays in competition. I want to be clear, I'm not talking about hateful shit, racist shit, throwing games, losing games on purpose, or any of that garbage. I'm talking about actual healthy trash talk banter between competitors. I think that is extremely important to the success of a sport. And it doesn't have to always be trash talk, but just the ability for players and teams to give genuine emotional thoughts on an upcoming match or their opponents, I think is crucial to getting people excited about a match. It takes away something when you're telling these teams and players that they can't say or, do anything that might come across as disrespectful to the sport or the opponent because they represent brands. That takes away a big element of it from a viewer's perspective because you have these two teams going into game day and neither one of them said anything about each other past the cookie cutter shit of they're a great team, they sweat, they pee, they come just like us, it's going to be a tough one. That's all you get. You don't get like this back and forth trash talk or this back and forth joking or really any insight into how the teams actually feel or what they're going in or what they're expecting going in. So if you take that away, it's kind of just like looking at robots doing a job. It's just these people going in there and doing a job, not competing. It's like you're peeking into a fucking cubicle at a big business. There's nothing well, it's still fun to watch the events, but there's a certain element that's missing. And that's the element of caring. It doesn't seem like anyone's invested in actually competing. They're just there because it's their job. And I think just having the ability to joke around and trash talk and banter and be genuine is extremely important to a sport, and KSI and Logan Paul shows us just how important it can be in getting people excited and interested in it. Even people that don't like either of those two people still tuned in just because of all the hype around it that they generated through their trash talk and keeping it on people's mouths. And I think that's what esports is dreadfully lacking right now. they always discourage trash talk or anything disrespectful because they do represent brands, and the brands, I guess, don't want to be associated with that shit. And I just think that loses a core component of what makes competition exciting for viewers and even for players as well. So that's all I really wanted to talk about, and that's about it. See ya.